Hey, hey, beloved tribe. Well, I wanted to keep up my excellent record and go live again on Weekly Reading Wednesday to talk about something that came up for me that was really exciting. And even though it's not going to be revelatory in the sense of, well, archetypally, we're going to talk about that, but I guess the full-bodied or embodied realization occurred for me when I was at the movies on Friday night with my beloved. It was his birthday weekend and he's mad crazy about the Avengers, and they seem to release movies every 6 months, which is about the frequency of our date night. So we headed off to the movies to go and see Avengers Infinity War, and I actually secretly love these kinds of movies, and I was watching it with that kind of full body experience when you're seeing a big Hollywood blockbuster, which is all kind of action and fantasy and, you know, bad guys and good guys and all these heroes going into battle for what was right, and, you know, these heroes who'd all sort of, you know, overcome their own human stuff to be there to represent, and even the people who aren't the humans, like Thor, who's quite cute, but that's not the point of this live. So I was having a great time and a great experience, and I was feeling all of that energy of, you know, light versus dark and good versus bad going on in my body, and just fully letting myself embody and experience the kind of the heightened energy that comes from seeing a movie of that sort. And I don't know if it was during it or sort of just afterwards, I really understood in that embodied way, which is kind of the point of difference I get versus that kind of knowledge way where we just kind of think and go, yeah, that makes sense, but actually fully experiencing the truth of what it is for the light to fight the dark, or for good to fight bad. What does that actually mean? Why are we so attracted to these kind of, you know, superheroes who go into battle against the enemy, against the darkness? And what is it that keeps bringing us back? Now, we know from the work of people like Joseph Campbell and the journey of the hero and anything to do with archetypes, that this is an archetypal thing that goes on within each and every one of us, this capacity to identify. Oh, my phone's going to run out of charge. Oh, that's not good, is it, Ricky? Should have really planned that a bit better. Let me just plug it in. So, you know, our capacity to identify that there is you know, darkness around us in the world, but there's also that darkness within us. And I guess what I was really excited about, and excuse me while I'm just plugging this in, was that realization that I had in my body. You're getting to come up close and personal with me. Is that every time, I'm going to turn you upside down. Hold on, don't get nauseous or car sick. Oh, wants me to rotate it. So every time we make that choice for love, every time we make a choice in our daily life to resist the temptation of going into the darkness, to resist the temptation to indulge our fear, we are being that superhero in our own life. And it's literally like an embodied physicality that you can get a rush from when you make a choice towards your soul or towards love. Love can be a really ambiguous word. So I want to say making that choice towards the light. Now, this may sound really obvious to you, and I don't want it to be. I don't want this just to be another kind of obvious statement of every time you choose to think a loving thought, you know, fairies get their wings or whatever. What I mean is, what if the enemy that we're fighting is ourself? So what if when we watch these superhero movies and the good guys trump the bad guys, what we get so excited about is that capacity to shift consciousness from dark to light. But in our own waking life, we're not necessarily going to encounter, you know, bad guys with lasers in the street who are coming out of spaceships. Maybe we will, but probably not. What we're really going to encounter more than anything is the possibility of choosing not to indulge fear. What if the possibility exists for us to behave in the same way the superheroes do, by just making a choice not to indulge our jealousy, not to indulge our loathing, not to indulge our hate, not to indulge our pettiness, not to indulge our need to be right? What if it's actually that simple? That what we're so attracted to archetypally is that battle between light and dark, but it's not that we have to go out into the world and battle the darkness out there. It's that we have to be willing to battle the darkness in here. And I'm not even talking about shadow work. I'm not talking about going into your, into your past and looking at all of that kind of stuff and making a choice, at that level. I'm talking about in your everyday, moment by moment life. What if every time you don't exclude someone because of your own jealousy of them, or every time you don't, be mean to your kids because you're feeling stressed? What if that is actually the archetypal battle between light and dark that we need to win in order to bring the whole of humanity to right, to that tipping point where we bring human consciousness back towards love in such a spectacular way? Now, unlike the heroes that fight in the movies that we love to go and watch, this is not a sexy thing, of course. This is just us in our own life having to make a choice. But every time we do that, we are elevating everybody's consciousness. So it's like every time you remember not to hate yourself or to beat yourself up or to say something unloving to yourself, every time you remember to think something kind about someone who you actually feel really shut off by, every time you choose to bless the person that you feel has wronged you, you are being the Hulk, you are being Thor, you are being, the Black Widow, you are being Iron Man, you are being the contemporary superhero, because the truth is there's only one of us here. There's only one of us in the dream, and that is a big concept that I'm not going to break down today. But oneness, we do understand. There is a unified unity consciousness, and every time we make a choice for love, that choice ripples out across the entire consciousness. And the thing is, and one of the things I teach my third level priestesses is that the mystic is someone who can see God in others, even when that other person will never be able to see God in you. And I think that's a particularly powerful statement to think about at this time, is that you're not choosing love over fear. You're not choosing to be kind to someone who's rude to you because they will ever be able to forgive you or see goodness in you, but because when you see God in the other, you hold the possibility of that person meeting that within themselves. And that is how we overcome darkness. No one can be that for you. No one can be God for you. No one can take you to God for you. No one can heal you. No one can do any of that. The only thing that a person who might identify as a healer or someone who works on this path can do is hold the space for you to meet that potential within yourself. So our role as superheroes, our spiritual superpower, is to see God in others when others will never necessarily be able to see it in ourselves. So you have to be willing to be kinder and more loving and more compassionate, even if no one else is ever that way back to you. Now, the truth is, the law states, the law of correspondence is as within, so without, that eventually, if your choice for love is truly a choice for love, that will come back to you. The world will change itself. The fabric of your existence will alter so that you are in a loving world. But really, I guess what I got in that movie theater on Friday night with such a full-bodied yes was that choice to love when someone else is throwing hate at you, when someone else is trying to poison the well of your life, when someone else is casting nasturtiums, as I love to say, on your character, when someone else is trying to intentionally harm you or even unintentionally harm you. They just cut you off in traffic or whatever it is, or they gave birth to you and they didn't ever get a guidebook on how to parent. So, all of these things, what if we can see God in the other, even when they will never necessarily be able to reflect that back to us? That to me is the choice for love that the superhero, the spiritual superhero that is us, those of us with spiritual fierceness, are making every day. And that battle then between light and dark is always a battle with the self. And I think this is an incredibly powerful thing for us to remember, because when we know that the power's not outside of us, we're not waiting for someone else to change their behavior in order for us to be able to be more loving and more godly and all the rest of it. We're actually just totally willing to recognize that there is nothing outside of us. There's no outside thing to heal. There's only our relationship with ourselves, because there's only one of us here. We are all that unified one consciousness, and what we do for our own individual self is what we offer to others. And you can't offer what you're not giving to the self. You don't have to be perfect to do the work of service, but you do have to be willing to meet your own demons. And the demons are within. Those demons that come from out of the sky in action movies are not actually what we're fighting. What we're fighting is the demons within us, that ego identified self, which is exactly what the ego is identified or defined as, is that part of you that believes it is separate from God. That part of you that believes it's separate from God is the ego, and that ego is going to do its darndest to try to undo you. And the power that we have is to choose not to live an ego-identified life, but to live a soul-identified life. And then we become those superheroes, and that choice is not easy. But here's something you can do. If you've got someone in your life right now who's trying to, or unintentionally or intentionally dragging you down, making you feel less loved than you want to be feeling, is a practice from Marianne Williamson. I think this might come from A Course in Miracles, I'm not sure, is to go to the practice of blessing that person for 40 days. So that person or life event, but usually there's a person who's causing us trouble in any given life event that we're finding challenging, that person then we will bless for 40 days. And we will do that as a way to atone for our faulty thinking. So we're correcting the fault in our thinking, which believes that we are separate from the other. So that is one of the, if we were imagining this in superhero movie terms, that's like you've just gone and got that really big, powerful hammer, or that Thor carries around. That hammer that can beat out the darkness from within, that ego-identified thinking that wants us to believe that the problem is the other person, that wants us to believe that we are vulnerable in our own life to external circumstances. And the truth is never that way. We are only one of us here. There is only one unified consciousness. And every time we sit with love, where previously we have sat with hate, then we are altering the fabric of all humanity, of all consciousness. So that's what it is to be a superhero, in my opinion, is to be willing. And the thing is, you're going to think that there's exceptions to that. And there's never, ever an exception to that. There's never, ever an exception to that. And the thing is, it's not what the other person has done that needs to be, it's not about lacking discernment. If the other person is someone you should not spend time with because their behavior is no longer appropriate for you, that's entirely appropriate. But that doesn't mean that you walk away with anger in your heart. That simply means that you then have to find a way to forgive that. And ultimately, gosh, we could go far down the rabbit hole here. We're talking about guiltlessness. But what I want to leave you with is really that idea of when I watch movies like Avengers and I get all excited and I feel that enthusiasm in my soul for fighting darkness, because that is what I feel. I feel this incredible enthusiasm to fight the darkness. I am reminded that my capacity to choose love is my greatest capacity to fight darkness. That is my superpower. And my willingness to do that in every moment is what makes it possible for me to change the world. Don't wait until the shit hits the fan. Don't wait until you've got big, gnarly life situations. Every time you have a jealous, possessive, angry, low vibing thought about another person, go into action with your Thor-like hammer against your ego identified self, and with love, with that hammer, go at it and be willing to meet that fear of separation thinking that says it's okay for me to indulge that fear-based thought. It's never okay for you to indulge that fear-based thought. It's never okay for you to assign blame to the other person. You can make choices that are discerning about what you have in your life, but to associate blame as though the other person has control over you and your beliefs and your feeling states, that is to let darkness win, and that's never ever okay. So if you want to to embody that feeling that we get when we watch superheroes fight the darkness, fight the enemy, remember that enemy is always within. The enemy is always within, and when we meet that enemy within, we are able to alter the fabric of reality and change the world that we're inhabiting, not just for ourselves but for all. And that's the other thing about the superhero. They are here in service. They're not here for personal gain, and they give up so much in order to go on that path of service. And that's what we admire about them, is that they put down their own human desires in order to, that's what Tony Stark just left Pepper, and they were talking about having a baby, and he's off saving, trying to protect the world against Thanos, who's this crazy megalomaniac. Anyway, if you haven't seen it, it doesn't matter. But the point is, he put down his own dreams of a happy little domestic life in order to save all of humanity. And I think that's what we admire about superheroes, is their willingness to be bigger than just the circumstances of their life. They make a choice that is self-sacrificing in pursuit of service to the greater good. And that's what the mystic does, and that's what my path is. And I've never been asked to leave anything behind. I've never been asked, well, I've been asked to leave a lot of stuff behind, but it's all been for my benefit, like my fear and my self-doubt and all of that kind of crap. And what I have gained is quite incredible. But it doesn't mean that my path has always been easy. And I think it's important that you recognize that. You know, very recently in my life, I've had to overcome deep feelings of rage and anger and doubt and frustration and really like just the worst situation I think I can remember being in professionally in my life. It wasn't just professionally, but it had a big impact in that way. And at every point I had to make a choice about whether I was going to indulge that or whether I was going to make a bigger choice. And even now I know that situation goes on, but it doesn't go on for me. It only goes on for the other person who continues to sort of be suffering in that state. I made a choice to turn that shit into gold. And every day I worked with practices to energetically change the vibration, even though I felt deep fear and deep grief and deep sadness and deep anger and all the rest of it. I worked every day. It wasn't like that was an easy choice. I had to work every damn day to make that choice, and I did make that choice. And I also blessed that other person for 40 days, and I did that even though I, had other feelings. So I really feel like it's not that it's an easy thing for us to do. And that's the other thing that the superhero archetype shows us, is that the choice is not necessarily going to be easy. And it may look like there's great sacrifice involved, but ultimately what we gain is so massive and so much freedom. Freedom from fear is the gain. And I would encourage you all to see that you do have that capacity to change the world right now. It doesn't matter what you do for a living. It's just about being willing to see that you are not separate from the person standing next to you. And those little tiny practices are how we alter the fabric of existence for everybody. So don't let that egocentric maniac inside of you take control. Don't let those demons be the ones who win the story. And absolutely be willing to see that you are the alchemist and you are the superhero. And it's just every single time you notice yourself making a choice out of fear that you make a different choice. And there you are, my darling. You just save the world a little bit more. Mwah. Have a beautiful evening. Bye.